Stitch is still not fitting in and causes another disaster. Lilo tries to encourage him by saying he's one of a kind, comparing him to Frankenstein's monster, which just makes him feel worse. Meanwhile, ex-Captain Guntu, who's in his new spaceship after his original one got destroyed when he kidnapped Lilo and tried to recapture Stitch, is hired by Jumba's former partner. A diminutive creature resembling a cross between a hamster, poodle and rabbit named Dr. Jacques von Hamsterwheel to retrieve the other 625 experiments. Guntu goes to Earth, breaking into Lilo and Stitch's home. Blasting Stitch into a net, finding and taking a blue pod with the number 625 on it, and abducting Jumba for interrogation. Stitch and Lilo take Jumba's spaceship and chase Guntu into outer space, engaging him in battle, only to be defeated and fall back towards Earth. Back at their house, Lilo, Stitch and Pleakley find the container Jumba was hiding. Pleakley realizes that these are the other 625 experiments in dehydrated form, and warns them not to tell anyone or put the experiments in water, aware of how dangerous they are. Deliberately disobeying Pleakley's orders, Stitch and Lilo retrieve the container and hydrate one of the experiments, Experiment 221, who promptly escapes into the night. Jumba is being held captive on the ship of Dr. Hamsterwheel. Unable to intimidate Jumba, Hamsterwheel activates another experiment, Experiment 625, to attack him. Although 625 has some of Stitch's powers, he is incredibly lazy and a terrible coward, prioritizing and making sandwiches above all else. Meanwhile, Pleakley is able to call Hamsterwheel's ship via telephone. Hamsterwheel tells Pleakley that he wants a ransom of the other 624 experiments in return for Jumba, W. Hen Pleakley informs the other family members what the ransom is. Nani proceeds to call Cobra Bubbles about the problem while Lilo and Stitch go out to find 221. When Cobra arrives the next morning, H.A. seems to already know about what happened. Meanwhile, Stitch and Lilo finally manage to catch a troublesome Experiment 221 at a nearby hotel with a glass vase and soon befriend him. The rendezvous time arrives and Pleakley and Cobra show up with the container, not knowing that it contains only 623 experiments. Pleakley hands the container over to Hamsterwheel, who is shocked to find that one is missing. Lilo then shows up with Experiment 221 trapped in the vase. Announcing that she has named it Sparky, she says that Sparky is part of Stitch's, and thus her Ohana. Furious, Hamsterwheel tells her to give him the experiment or Jumba will die. After several moments of thinking and hearing Cobra, Pleakley, Jumba and Hamsterwheel persuading them, Lilo and Stitch set Sparky free and break Jumba from his bonds. On Cobra's signal, the Grand Councilwoman's ship rises out of the nearby ocean and aims several guns at Hamsterwheel to obliterate him. Lilo protests, saying that Hamsterwheel has other experiments while Sparky overhears this. Sparky then proceeds to use his electrical abilities to blow the power on the Councilwoman's ship, while Hamsterwheel and Guntu climb back aboard their own ship with the captured experiments. In a last attempt to stop Hamsterwheel, Lilo, Stitch and Sparky stow away on it as it leaves Earth. Inside the ship, Lilo and Stitch manage to swipe the container with the other experiments in it. The struggle for the container between Lilo, Stitch and Guntu results in releasing the dehydrated pods to rain down and scatter throughout Hawaii. Having captured the two, Hamsterwheel reveals his plans to clone Stitch 1,000 times over and orders Guntu to do what he wants with Lilo. While Guntu puts Lilo in a teleportation pod to send her to an intergalactic zoo. Stitch is strapped to a weight just heavier than he can lift. Watching as Stitch tries to avoid being vivisected by a laser for the cloning process, Sparky shows that he has reformed by short-circuiting the cloning machine. He then breaks Stitch free from his bonds and the two strap Hamsterwheel to the device before they rescue Lilo. Having locked Hamsterwheel in handcuffs, Lilo, Stitch, and Sparky short-circuit Gintu's ship, causing it to crash near a waterfall on Kauai. Landing Hamsterwheel's ship back at the rendezvous point, they give Sparky a new home powering Kilauea Lighthouse, which hasn't been running in years because powering it was very expensive. They then persuade the Grand Councilwoman to let them rehabilitate the other 623 experiments. The councilwoman places Hamsterwheel under arrest, and Jumba whispers to Pleakley that he has plans for making experiment 627. At that moment, experiments 202, 529, 455, 489, and 390 are activated, beginning the events of the series. Later, Jumba and Pleakley hope to go home with the Grand Councilwoman this time, but they are left stranded on Earth once again.